Hi everybody, it's Stacy Sobel with Salon Today Conversations, and today I'm with Shane Price from Green Circle Salons. Hi Shane, how are you?
Hi Stacy, I am terrific. It's really great to be here
We
on one of your live sessions.
we just did a little chatting about the crazy new world.
Yeah, it's the new normal is not normal at all. So we're all
Not
trying to,
normal at all.
yeah, everything's a bit turned upside down, but I think it's painting an interesting picture for us for sure.
Now this one thing that's the same, salons still produce a lot of beauty waste, and your company helps salons deal with that. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got interested in this and launched Green Circle.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the waste streams, absolutely, they're now continuing. That's sort of, we're back into full motion, and salons are creating a ton of resources. That's what we like to call the waste streams, resources. PPE obviously offers its own interesting challenges, and I think we've come up with a great solution. I know we're going to talk a bit about that later. In terms of, the inspiration behind the concept of Green Circle, I think there's probably two great ways to answer that. One is a whole lifetime leading up to before I launched Green Circle. I'd spent a healthy amount of time in my childhood with mom and dad and siblings being in the outdoors. And I think there's no better teacher for us. And so the inspiration is deeply around how to protect how to protect nature and to protect that inspiration, because we drive so much in our world from the natural and wild places that we're surrounded by. And so that's kind of like the focus of inspiration is really just growing up and spending a lot of time out in nature and knowing that it needs to be protected. It doesn't have a seat at the table. It doesn't have a voice. And so it needs a voice. And I think the second part of this is being in a salon in 2009 and just witnessing firsthand the amount of waste or the amount of resources that were going out to curbside here in Toronto, Canada. And knowing that there must be a smarter, healthier solution that would really protect the environmental integrity of our communities better than curbside waste and landfill. There's smarter solutions. There's got to be for these particular streams. And so shortly after, with a bit of research and a pilot group here in Toronto, we were able to launch the Green Circle Salons group in Toronto. And we had to figure out all the sort of the ripples and the kinks and really get to how the business model was going to work and really work for, the salons we were working with and offering our services to, but also be able to scale it, because it's one thing to do it here in Toronto, but the reality is that the dent that would make would be so small. And so we developed a program that we could take into any city, anywhere in the world really, and be able to quite quickly divert, 95 up to 100% of salon waste in a very smart and meaningful way.
That's amazing. Well, talk a little bit about what when you're talking about the beauty waste, what you're talking about it, and why you can't use traditional municipal channels to recycle or repurpose it.
Yeah, it's a great question. And there's lots of different layers to it, right? So cities and municipal services and states and provinces and countries, the systems they have for managing waste are not created equally. And so depending on where you live in the world will depend on what sort of infrastructure is in place to support managing your waste streams or your resource streams. And Toronto in 2009 being a very progressive city, one would think that we would have a lot of resources in place and infrastructure to manage, all the different streams coming out of salons. And the reality was at that time that certainly that did not exist. Paper, plastic recycling, yes, there was structure for that. Not everywhere, but in many places. But when you look at the really tough to recycle materials, which is where Green Circle really put its focus. We think about hair clippings and foils and color tubes and residual chemical waste and this type of aerosol hair, right? It's just such an interesting thing to consider how to manage. And so municipalities are just not set up. A lot of municipalities around that time too were moving to single stream. And so you've got all this stuff put into one bin, and then, it gets moved to a transfer station where it has to be kind of separated. And the machinery is not set up to manage all these different streams, the separators and the blowers, all of these, hair clippings or aluminum foil behaves like paper when it goes through this type of system. It gets blown off of the conveyor and it behaves like paper when in fact it's not, it's a metal. And so we really looked at all the different material streams in detail to understand what was possible. And where we landed was we needed to build a community, and which we've done at Green Circle, our waste warriors, build a community of people who would take on the responsibility of ensuring at the source, at the point of creation of the waste, so at the source, these streams were separated on our behalf. And that made all the difference. So if you can get a pure stream of metal and hair and residual chemicals and so on and so forth, then it becomes possible to develop solutions against those. But when it's all commingled and it's messy, which is the way that typically municipalities are set up, it is a huge challenge. And so we stumbled upon really creative ways to ensure that these streams not only were separated, but also could then be, obviously turned into new and very cool products that can go back into our economy and stay out of landfill.
And when I wrote the story, I found that very eye-opening. Some of the things, like I thought, I just thought hair was organic, it would be compostable, and I didn't realize that if it's thrown away in a bag or something, that's going to produce methane gas and create a bigger problem.
Yeah, it's absolutely. We took a good hard look at that. There was a study done in Ontario in the 1980s where they did a core sample of a landfill, and they looked at that core and all the different layers of waste, and they found newspapers dating back to the 1970s, 1960s, and it had they could obviously, the newspapers were dated, so they would look at other materials in that area, and they found like iceberg lettuce that had not decomposed properly.
Wow.
And so when landfills are pretty airtight, and it creates not the right conditions, so anaerobic conditions, not the right conditions for organic materials to break down. And there's no sunlight, the right kind of bacteria and that's required to really compost organic material, it's not present. In fact, you have sort of the negative offenders that are present. So you have bacteria that are anaerobic and prefer anaerobic conditions, but in those conditions, to your point, it's creating methane gas. And methane gas, as we know, is a far more potent contributor to global warming than carbon dioxide. That's about 86 times more potent. And so we really began, people, obviously municipalities now are rethinking all the different streams that go into landfill and how to keep anything that's got an organic by nature, to keep it out of landfill.
Now, you formed relationships with different partners and facilities that can process these different streams. Talk about what kinds of end products they can make out of some of the beauty resources.
Absolutely, yeah. So, a lot of start with sort of the complex ones that I think are where we tend to spend a lot of time. I mean, paper and plastic, these are commodities that circulate, they used to circulate around the globe. Now things have changed, and there's a drive to keep these commodities within North America, which is great. You look at something like hair, and what are people doing with hair? We know when the BP oil spill happened in the Gulf of Mexico, hair was deployed from across Canada and the US to be used by volunteers as a sort of first line of defense to protect the shoreline. And that is a great solution. And we're seeing that some of this was done in Mauritius with this most recent spill. But hair it's an incredible fiber. We think of it as keratin, as a keratin fiber with some really cool and unique properties. Over and above the fact that it insulates and keeps our bodies warm, hair has the potential to be an incredible insulator. And so a lot of the innovation around here, we have to drive that innovation ourselves at Green Circle. So we work with researchers, we work with universities, technical colleges to look at, what are the possibilities. And as you may know, we've recently developed in conjunction with some manufacturing partners in Chicago and with Virginia Tech, we've developed a new type of biocomposite pellet that is made from hair clippings and recycled plastics. So they can be brought together in a very unique formula. And now you have a new type of biocomposite plastic material that is made of fully recycled, upcycled materials. And in some cases is showing to be more stronger than traditional plastics at the same diameters and under the same conditions and KPIs. And so there's a lot of promise there. The bins that we are manufacturing to send to our salons to use in salon to put their streams of waste into, because we have to provide that as part of the kit. We're now transitioning away from, we used to use a cardboard bin, we're now using a biocomposite bin that is made from this material. So you can imagine hair is leaving the salon and we're closing the loop on the stream and it's being turned into a bin that can be used back in the salon. Residual chemicals, this is a big one. And there are, again, it's in a way, it's kind of a petrochemical based material, it's synthetic. And we are able to separate the liquid components, so the aqueous or water components of that, from the metals. And the metals can effectively, depending on the location we're in, they would go into a safe storage and live the rest of their lives out in that storage, not contaminating any landfill or the planet. The water can go back into the gray water system because it can be treated and simply go back into the system. And any of the fuel material that's remaining out of that, and there is always fuel remaining out of it, it's able to be used by our partners to run local vehicles that they might have in their plant and so on and so forth.
Wow.
One of the key focuses of our program around the chemical hair dyes. In addition, waste to energy is another great endpoint for this type of material. It creates an alternative energy source. And obviously that is that's another really great endpoint for this particular stream.
I don't know if any salons have told you, but I would imagine just the process of collecting that makes them realize, that they're being more wasteful than maybe they need to be, and maybe they can control that, which is a cost savings benefit to the salon as well.
It's incredible the level of value that programs like this can add to a salon environment. So absolutely looking at this particular waste stream, when you see it in front of your eyes and your staff, the whole team, they see it. I think at number one, you're thinking about, wow, like this is actually previous to going to Green Circle, this was going down the sink, it was making its way into our oceans. We were just simply washing it down the drain. And also you're just sort of rinsing money down the drain as well. So from a sustainability standpoint, we always look at it as environmental sustainability as well as financial sustainability. They go hand in hand. And this is, I think, kind of the beauty of the model that we've created and we've introduced to salons.
That's great. Now, let's talk a little bit about PPE, because this is presenting a new challenge to salons, and not just in the recovery of it, but in the safe recovery of it. You don't want to, should someone come in and be contaminated, you don't want to spread that by having that source open for everybody, I guess.
Correct, yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting one for sure, and we're in the early stages of modeling this in the salons that are obviously part of our program. If you look at the US, I think in 2019, the market size of PPE was around 52, maybe 55 billion dollars. And this is going to go north of $100 billion business, in the next few years. And so the volume of the stream is obviously
Exponentially exploding.
Exponentially exploding, and we have to stay on top of it. And I think salons have done a remarkable job in responding to how to manage the stream. Obviously we're in touch with our network, our community of salons, and we provide a kit. That kit goes into salons. Salons can very easily and very safely manage the stream. We've gotten really great feedback from not only from the salons, but from their salon guests, just feeling safe and secure in a place that they go to look and feel beautiful. Salons want as little disruption as possible to their business while they're doing it. And I believe the PPE program that we've put in place provides for just ease of mind around safe management of that particular waste stream. That's not only, environmentally an issue, but from a health standpoint. So I think we've really addressed that through the program. And right now the feedback is great, and we're learning along the way from our community for sure.
Now, as part of that, when I wrote the story, it's the PPE thing is a closed box. They drop it in, and then when it's full, they put a label on it. They ship it to you, and then you safely recover it.
We safely recover it. That's correct. Yeah. So PPE is a waste to energy stream. There is no other opportunity to recover anything from that stream other than the pure energy value that's locked in the material itself. Going to a landfill, landfills are not created equally. Many landfills are, they're not lined, so you have issues with contamination, groundwater contamination. You have issues with wildlife landing on landfill and picking parts of it away and carrying it off to different places. So we did our research. We looked to understand what really is the best avenue for this particular stream, and waste to energy, again, creates an alternative energy source for us to tap into. It's an alternative to the petrochemical industry, and we feel strongly that this is really the best solution, and it's the safest solution.
There is a cost to participating in the Green Circle program, but you do have a model where you help salons recover that cost by sharing it with their guests. Talk a little bit about how that works, or how you suggest it.
Absolutely, yeah. So, in the early days, when we developed the program, we focused on 4 core pillars, which are the same core pillars that we think about today. We help salons to mitigate the downstream impact of their business, which is the sort of the Be Green side of it. The part you're referencing now is the building revenue. So we help salons to be green, build revenue, gain clients, and save money. And the build revenue element really is we've created a funding mechanism that salons sort of embed in their pricing structure that allows them to generate additional revenue on a monthly basis. So the startup cost to join Green Circles is roughly, let's just say it's about $350. But within that first month, most salons have already generated that much revenue for themselves through this program and made that money back. The average salon is generating between, I'd say, $3,000 to $5,000, $6,000 a year on this program through this funding mechanism. And so I'm strongly of the belief that when you introduce a business in your community, the responsibility of business is to provide a solution to your community. It is to enhance your community. It is to do great things for your community. And if you do those things and you make people look beautiful, but we don't consider the downstream impact that creating that beauty has, that is, to me, not the intent of business. Right? That is not the driver. But salons obviously need a funding mechanism and a way to recover the cost and a way to generate additional revenue to reinvest in other great technologies that will continue to support their business from a sustainability standpoint. And so this is core to the model, is that no, we understand, like salons, you need to generate revenue. So this funding mechanism is put in place so that you're able to pay Green Circle Salons for the services that we provide in managing the waste materials, for creating the marketing and collateral material for salons to communicate very effectively and smoothly with their salon guests, because guests today are curious about, what their salons are doing. They're curious, not consumers. I don't like to use the term consumers because we're citizens. We're citizens first. We're consumers maybe on a data point somewhere. But in reality, we're citizens who care about the impact that the businesses that we choose to support are having on our planet. And I think, interestingly, COVID-19 is sort of the big reset, right? It's given us an opportunity to understand and see, maybe for the first time in recent history anyway, that we're all in the same watershed, right?
Yeah.
And it's something that climate change, interestingly, has not been able to bring about in the same way that COVID-19 did. But I believe what we're learning coming out of COVID-19 is that people are recognizing that we really are in all of this together, and that working alone is no longer an option. It's going to take all of our resources. It's going to take everyone working together to solve these really big, meaty, juicy problems that we have. And these are the biggest challenges of our time. And salons, in order to continue to make people look and feel beautiful, it's such an instrumental part of all of our daily lives here in North America, where we have the luxury to be able to afford that, and to afford those services. We have to make sure that we're accountable and responsible. And salons can't do it alone. But working synergistically with other partners and other businesses, that's sort of the new business. That's the business of the future. That's the way that we're going to operate as industries in the future. So our program helps salons from a financial standpoint, just to make sure that they're able to be financially sustainable as well. It doesn't do any good to be environmentally sustainable without actually being able to,
Right.
from a longevity standpoint, be a part of this program.
Now, from talking to some of your salon members for the story, I mean, the way that comes through is through a client fee, not for the service visit, not for every service they have while they're in that day, usually.
Yeah.
And it's minimal. It's $1.50, $2.50. Those were kind of what they were quoting me. And then I found it very interesting. Like, I asked, and everybody said nobody really ever objects to it. And one salon actually made it optional, but you could opt out of paying the fee, but you had to take the tour and see everything that they were doing for the environment. So part of their salon tour was looking at their waste stream collection boxes and talking about the PPE and understanding what they're doing and the lighting and the
I love it.
Sustainable furniture. So, and she said after that tour, nobody has ever not said, I'm happy to pay it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is what I love about working in this industry. So pre Green Circle Salons, I never worked in the beauty industry. So what I love is the magic and the creativity that this industry has developed around this model that we built the framework. That's all we did at Green Circle. We built the framework, and it's our community of waste warriors that have created incredible ways of engaging their customers and engaging their salon guests. And, you know, I think the great thing about this program is when we're fighting for clean air, clean water, and clean soil, it's really hard for anyone to argue back at you as a result of doing everything you can to protect the resources that keep us alive in the very first place. When you think about everything that within the salon that actually allows a salon owner to be able to perform their craft, it originates in nature, which is it's a beautiful synergy between, you know, what we can take from nature, not only to do our craft, but the inspirations to create the beauty that we do within a salon, but also that through this model, we are now being accountable for the downstream impact that we're having on the planet. You know, I imagine a world and a community of salons and a community of their salon guests that are in every way possible giving back to nature as much as we are taking away from nature. And that's where we want to go. It's weird. We want to be as small as possible on this planet. We want to reduce the impact to be as small as possible. You know, I want to be small, I think is going to be something we're going to hear more of in the future.
Well, I think a big part of that with your program in particular is the education, and it's the education the salon gives their team members, they give their clients, that you give the salons. And part of that is you're introducing them to other products and services just kind of as a concierge service to say, here's some other things that we think are great choices for the environment, and talk about some of those that you introduced them to.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. Every time you reduce waste, you increase revenue and you increase your bottom line, your profitability. So reducing waste is key. And so, yeah, so through the model, as I said, salons are generating an additional revenue stream. And we introduce a suite of other opportunities to reduce that impact. One of our favorite partners is called EcoHeads, and they create a product that can go into salons that dramatically help to reduce the amount of water being used in the salon. And so that's obviously for washing and rinsing the hair. And so this is a really great product that has gotten incredible feedback. And I believe it saves about 65 to 67% of the water that a salon might normally use. But it's not just the water, it's the heat that's required to heat up that water. So now you're saving on your energy bills as well. And you're reducing your carbon footprint when you reduce the amount of water that you need to rinse your client's hair. So, you know, there's a number of different kind of products and services that we use or introduce. LED lighting within a salon, or hot water on demand. Or when you think about simple things like putting shading in your windows to reduce the amount of radiant heat that's coming in from outside. All of these things make an incredible difference just in one salon. Now you magnify that by the hundreds of thousands of salons across North America, and you're really having a tremendous positive impact. And so, yeah, so no, our partners are incredible, and we look at them as stakeholders in the model to protect the planet, and we love the work that they're doing.
Now, once a salon ushers in a mission to sustainability, we're finding it brings in other benefits. And you recently did a study with Modern Salon Media, and we looked at what that does for team members, your talent, and as well as clients, and attracting them. So talk about a little bit about some of the findings that we found.
Sure. Yeah, no, like super impressive. And obviously, in my position, very delightful to see the study and the report. And, what's fascinating is, when you read a Harris poll or you read some of these reports, and they'll talk about a margin of, 51% of people believe this, or 52%, so the majority of people. When we looked in this report, we're seeing numbers of 93%.
93, 80, 93, yeah.
Exactly. 93% of salon professionals recognize that they're having an impact on the planet and are concerned about it. When you look at, retaining, your top talent, 90% of the talent out there is looking for salons who are environmentally conscious and aware. Consumers, we pulled consumers as well through this, which was incredible. And consumers in this space, likewise, 93% are concerned about the impact that their salon is having on the planet. And I think it was 83% said that they would be fully prepared to spend more additional money on services that they found to be sustainable. And I think, the big fear that we get wrapped up in is this idea that, there's so much greenwashing out there, and that consumers don't really believe it. And, there's the wish-washiness around, where people are prepared to help and not hurt the planet. And I think, when you get down to it, you really do as a consumer, and now you have every possibility to look at, the brands that you support, how they're communicating their brand, and what certifications they have. I don't know if you know this, but in 2019, we got zero waste to landfill certified. And for us, this was sort of a stake in the sand, because it's something that we knew ourselves, but we needed a third party to go in and audit our organization to really understand it. And it was a huge achievement to be able to say in 2019, 100% of the materials that we collected stayed out of landfill. And where possible, were recycled and upcycled. Some of the streams that we collect, like I mentioned, they will go to waste to energy. But like I said, 100% is an incredible statistic. So I think, it's really, today consumers have choices. And so businesses that are taking, especially in the new world of post-COVID-19, businesses who are taking every opportunity to enhance the customer experience, add value, reduce their impact on the planet, and really think about community first, are the brands and companies that are going to win. And so so it's an interesting and very cool time for us to be engaged with our waste warriors. You know, if you just take a glance at our social media, I'm blown away every time I open it up and see what people are doing with waste and how they're engaged with their consumers. This was not what I expected in 2009. Had I known,
Yeah.
that would have been the key inspiration. But the key inspirations now are our community, incredible community.
Well, and I found that when I interviewed them as well, I was really, really impressed with them. But one of them, I asked them about attracting clients, and she said, without a doubt, it drove them to a younger demographic. That when they put that out there, they found clients coming in saying, and they actually make their own product line too.
Okay, great.
But she said, you know, they're attracting people because they don't have it. They're not finding anything out there that suits their needs in a beauty salon. So when they find it, they're attracted to it, and that it drove this whole new, young, energetic demographic into their salon. So
I think that's a really important point, Stacey. You know, I was reading a report recently, and it's by BSR, and I found it really interesting, their perspective on kind of the pendulum swinging away from, you know, maybe where it was in, you know, from the 70s up until recently. There's been this push towards consumerism, right? We've commoditized citizens into consumers. And, you know, Canada, the United States, and many other countries, the founding principles were life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And the pendulum swung away from that to a different world, in the world of mass consumerism. You know, the very wasteful take and make waste model that has become so pervasive. And really, we have become these commoditized consumers that feed this machine to manufacture goods nonstop. And the pendulum is beginning to swing back the other way. People are beginning to recognize value in different places. And I think value is going to come in the forms of businesses who are accountable and responsible for the impact that they have. Young people are not being sold by big advertising. It doesn't appeal. They're very much about understanding what's behind the brand. And that is a terrific thing. And I think, you know, what we can say confidently in our community is that as a community of stakeholders, because it's not just Green Circle Salons anymore. It's this incredible community that leads with vision. We have the courage to take the next step, even though sometimes we don't know that next step, what it's going to be. And we're committed to the long haul. And I find that this community that's been ignited here, whether it's manufacturers or distributors or our partnership with you, with our salons, it's really about this new wave that we're going to see coming in of what we value in brands. And that really excites me.
And then going back to when you were talking about the greenwashing effect and being a little concerned about that, I think salons are in a really unique position to be able to share what they're doing. If you're talking about a manufacturing plant, you know, the client's not in there, the consumer's not in there looking around.
Exactly.
But in a salon, they are in your business. So you have an opportunity to really, truly show them what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that it goes beyond just what you're saying you're doing.
Yeah, no, it's such a great point. I mean, I think in the world where we live today, where transparency is key, and having a third party come in and audit your business and really help you define what true sustainability is where businesses are headed. And I think salons, you know, it was an ignition point for us in a way that we were able to communicate with our network, that together, the profound impact that we're having. I mean, when you think about it from a macro level, like, okay, yes, we divert paper or plastic chemicals, hair, all these things, but from a macro level, what does that actually mean, right? And so, we understand that with our network, we diverted 2.5 tons of carbon dioxide equivalents out of the atmosphere through our practices. So not needing to go and mine for new resources, right? To exploit more resources just by feeding our recycling streams back into our economy, back into use, was able to do that. 8.5 million kilowatt hours of electricity equivalents diverted and saved by not needing to go out and actually to mine for new resources. And that's just in one time frame of a year, in 1 year. So when you think about the collective impact of a few thousand salons and what we're able to achieve, now imagine if it's an industry that can be mobilized to make that shift. I think there's something that stands between our collective ability to do it and actually realizing that. And that thing that stands in the way is simply a matter of a fear of change.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if this is the piece that we can address, and now in the new post-COVID world, knowing that we won't survive this alone, and that change is what's going to be required to survive, and partnerships, and synergies, I think we're well on our way to really doing something incredible in this industry, and really making the difference in this industry. And here's one more thing, and sorry, I keep going on this point, but one interesting thing that I have found in this industry, which I did not expect when we began Green Circle, was that this industry really is the nexus point where so many incredible conversations happen.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of another industry where someone is sitting in a chair and can talk about sustainability with their service provider, their expert, their technician, for 45 minutes and really get the lowdown on what that means and have a really meaningful, passionate conversation. And that is at the root of what will create change. Those kinds of real conversations. There is no other industry. And so I just applaud, obviously, our community, but the work that's being done on so many levels to move it in this positive direction.
That's amazing. Yeah, there is definitely that magic there. But it's, there are many other people have not tapped into that, but there is a magic in the salon environment. And it's wonderful that you're being able to tap into that and make it good for the planet.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't work in the industry before Green Circle. And in fact, I'd never been into a salon to get my hair cut. I'd been a guy that went to a barber, or my dad used to cut my hair when I was a kid. And the first salon that ever called us to say, I want to join your program, I was over the moon. And that was in 2009. I think I ran all the way to that salon from my house because I had a bicycle, and I was just like, forget it, I'm going to go. And I went in and I said, I will forever be your guest so long as you stay on my program. And to this day, 10 years, 11 years later, this is the guy that cuts my hair. And there's a relationship that's established that is par to none. And I think this really is the beauty of this industry.
Yeah.
And there's so much power in that.
Definitely. Well, Shane, thank you so much. This has been a fascinating conversation, and I really enjoyed working on this article because it just kept growing as I was digging into it. So
there's a lot in here that we can unpack, and anytime I'd love the conversation, and anytime we can support you or support each other in these very meaningful conversations, we're very happy to.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and keep those warriors going. We love them.
Amazing. Okay, thanks.